Mikhail Gorbachev. Dear compatriots, fellow citizens, as a result of the newly formed situation, creation of the Commonwealth of Independent States, I cease my activities in the post of the President of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. I am taking this decision out of considerations based on principle. I have firmly stood for independence, self-rule of nations, for the sovereignty of the republics, but at the same time for preservation of the Union State, the unity of the country. Events went a different way. The policy prevailed of dismembering this country and disuniting the state, with which I cannot agree. And after the Alma-Ata meeting and the decisions taken there, my position on this matter has not changed. Besides, I am convinced that decisions of such scale should have been taken on the basis of a popular expression of will. Yet I will continue to do everything in my power so that agreement signed there should lead to real accord in the society and facilitate the escape from the crisis and the reform process. Addressing you for the last time in the capacity of President of the USSR, I consider it necessary to express my evaluation of the road we have traveled since 1985, especially as there are a lot of contradictory, superficial, and subjective judgments on that matter. Fate had it that when I found myself at the head of the state, it was already clear that all was not well in the country. There is plenty of everything: land, oil and gas, other natural riches, and God gave us lots of intelligence and talent. Yet we lived much worse than developed countries and kept falling behind them more and more. The reason could already be seen. The society was suffocating in the vice of the command bureaucratic system, doomed to serve ideology and bear the terrible burden of the arms race. It had reached the limit of its possibilities. All attempts at partial reform, and there had been many, had suffered defeat one after another. The country was losing perspective. We could not go on living like that. Everything had to be changed radically. That is why not once, have I regretted that I did not take advantage of the post of General Secretary to rule as Tsar for several years. I considered it irresponsible and immoral. I realized that to start reforms of such a scale in a society such as ours was a most difficult and even a risky thing. But even now, I am convinced that the democratic reform that we launched in the spring of 1985 was historically correct. The process of renovating the country and bringing about radical changes in the world turned out to be far more complicated than could be expected. However, what has been done ought to be given its due. This society acquired freedom and liberated itself politically and spiritually. And this is the foremost achievement which we have not yet understood completely, because we have not learned to use freedom. However, work of historic significance has been accomplished. The totalitarian system which deprived the country of an opportunity to become successful and prosperous long ago has been eliminated. A breakthrough has been achieved on the way to democratic changes. Free elections, freedom of the press, religious freedoms, representative organs of power, and a multi-party system became a reality. Human rights are recognized as the supreme principle. The movement to a diverse economy has started. Equality of all forms of property is becoming established. People who work on the land are coming to life again in the framework of land reform. Farmers have appeared. Millions of acres of land are being given over to people who live in the countryside and in towns. Economic freedom of the producer has been legalized, and entrepreneurship, shareholding, and privatization are gaining momentum. In turning the economy toward a market, it is important to remember that all this is done for the sake of the individual. At this difficult time, all should be done for his social protection, especially for senior citizens and children. We live in a new world. The Cold War has ended, and the arms race has stopped. as has the insane militarization which mutilated our economy, public psyche, and morals. The threat of a world war has been removed. Once again, I want to stress that on my part, everything was done during the transition period to preserve reliable control of the nuclear weapons. We opened ourselves to the world, gave up interference into other people's affairs, and the use of troops beyond the borders of the country, and trust, solidarity, and respect came in response. We have become one of the main foundations for the transformation of modern civilization on peaceful democratic grounds. The nations and peoples of this country gained real freedom to choose the way of their self-determination. The search for a democratic reformation of the multinational state brought us to the threshold of concluding a new union treaty. All these changes demanded immense strain. They were carried out with sharp struggle, with growing resistance from the old, the obsolete forces, the former party-state structures, the economic elite, as well as our habits, ideological superstitions, the psychology of sponging and leveling everyone out. They stumbled on our intolerance, low level of political culture, fear of change. That is why we lost so much time. The old system collapsed before the new one had time to begin working, and the crisis in the society became even more acute. I am aware of the dissatisfaction with the present hard situation, of the sharp criticism of authorities at all levels, including my personal activities. But once again, I'd like to stress, radical changes in such a vast country, and a country with such a heritage, cannot pass painlessly without difficulties and shake-up. The August coup brought the general crisis to its ultimate limit. The most damaging thing about this crisis is the breakup of the statehood. And today I am worried by our people's loss of the citizenship of a great country. The consequences may turn out to be very hard for everyone. I think it is vitally important to preserve the democratic achievements of the last years. They have been paid for by the suffering of our whole history, our tragic experience. They must not be given up under any circumstances or any pretext. Otherwise, all our hopes for the better will be buried. I am telling you all this honestly and straightforwardly because this is my moral duty. Today, I'd like to express my gratitude to all citizens who supported the policy of renovating the country and got involved in the implementation of the democratic reforms. I am grateful to statesmen, public and political figures, as well as millions of people abroad who understood our intentions, gave their support, and met us halfway. I thank them for their sincere cooperation with us. I am leaving my post with apprehension, but also with hope, with faith in you, your wisdom, and force of spirit. We are the heirs of a great civilization, and its rebirth into a new modern and dignified life now depends on one and all. Some mistakes could surely have been avoided, and many things could have been done better, but I am convinced that sooner or later our common efforts will bear fruit. Our nations will live in a prosperous and democratic society. I wish all the best to all of you.